Apprehend God in all things, for God is in all things. Every single creature is filled with God and is a book about God. Please be seated. So it happened 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago it happened. 2 weeks ago. You want to know what? Are you dying to know? Okay, I'll tell you. The 100th person came up to me and asked me or made a comment about that thing I say it right before I preach, apprehend God in all things. 100th person. And I kept a count in my head. And I said, when I get to the 100th person, I'm going to explain why I use that thing. And it happened 2 weeks ago. But not really. I just wanted to get your attention. So somebody did mention it a couple weeks ago. So that thing I use, apprehend God in all things, for God is in all things. Every single creature is filled with God. That comes from a man named Meister Eckhart, who has come to be known as Meister Eckhart. And he lived in the 14th century. And he got his doctorate in theology. That's why he has the term Meister. It's not what his mom called him. It's like a title. Okay, so Meister is a title of his position. And he eventually became a priest in a church. And he became famous because he was a preacher. He preached a lot. And he preached a lot around similar things to what that little phrase tries to get at, apprehend God in all things. He preached a lot about the idea that the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Christ, however you're going to understand that, is around us, manifesting itself all the time. And the question in life is not to try to prove that, but to what helps us encounter that. What opens our hearts and minds and eyes to see that so that we can have an encounter of this living Spirit? He's not really saying anything different than what the gospel just said. Because in the end, see, the gospel is not about, hey, I'm going to prove to you that Christ was raised from the dead. No, it's not about that. It's about helping people to see that Christ is alive. The Spirit that people experienced in the living Jesus is alive and can be encountered by everybody, by all of us. And the story gives us a picture of how their eyes are opened to encounter this. Now, as you can imagine, when Meister Eckhart was talking about stuff like this, the Inquisition was, you know what the Inquisition is? Everybody? Every single person in here knows what it is. I got to know if everybody knows. Okay, so those guys were like trying to clamp down on the Spirit of God, the way I see it. They were trying to say, no, there's only certain ways that you can know God. And we have control over those ways. And Meister Eckhart, in the face of that, saying, no, it's open. Christ is alive all around us. All the time. That's why we come here. We come here not because this is the only place where we can encounter the Spirit of the risen Christ. We come here so that doing the things that we do, singing the hymns that we sing, like the psalm, over and over again reminds us we walk in the presence of God. And we come here over and over and over again to have our eyes open so that we can encounter it here and see it out there. Do you get that? I mean, this is really important to me anyway. It's really, really important. That Christ is alive. We say, hallelujah, Christ is risen, and you say, it means he's alive. Not that we have to believe some doctrine about it. Doctrines are fine as far as they go. But this is about an encounter with the Spirit of Christ that is all around us, all the time, every day. So here's how it works in my life. So I'll tell you my encounter if you tell somebody else yours. That's the deal, okay? So once I say this, you're on the hook. Okay, so a few years ago, Cindy, Kaylee, and I are going to go to a wedding. For some strange reason, my two boys didn't want to go to the wedding. So it was me and the girls going to the wedding. Okay, and the wedding, I have to admit, I wasn't thrilled. And one of the reasons I'm not thrilled, nothing wrong, I mean, I'm all for weddings and all, but when it becomes part of your job, then oftentimes I can find myself falling into like this critical place at the wedding. But we don't do it that way. And man, you talk about ruining an experience, man. You know, it's like, God, I'm judging the way I do it with the way they do, and that's not fun. So I wasn't thrilled about it. But it was at the beach. Destination weddings, man. So I'm all about that. And especially at the beach. And so I thought, well, at least we get to go to the beach. Although, we met Cindy's mom and some other people down there, and we were staying together. And I was thinking, the day of the wedding, we're never going to get to the beach because everybody was just in one of those frenzies, you know? Frenzies people get in before big events like that. Yeah, I'm sure you don't know. And everybody's screaming about what they're going to wear and who gets the iron and blah, 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 and schedules for showers and stuff like that. And so it's like, we're never going to get out of here. We're just going to be sitting here all day long. But Kaylee had a homework assignment. And her homework assignment was to go to the beach, and take a couple people, and everybody had to spread out and sit down, find a spot, and then write down everything that they see and everything that they hear and smell and touch, okay? So we had to go. We had to go. It was her homework. So we went, and I went and I sat down next to one of those big logs, you know, that wash up on the beach. You ever seen those? Okay, so I was sitting there, and at first it was like, okay, there's a person and a bird. And you know what I mean? You know, I was just like so surface. Well, and there's the ocean. This is boring. And then something happened. Something changed as I was sitting there. Something changed, and something about the sky just caught my eye. And it was one of those crystal clear, bright days, and it just caught my eye, and it changed me. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't just, there's the ocean. It was like, look at the ocean. And then I closed my eyes, and I could hear the wind, and I could hear the waves, and I could hear people talking, and I could hear the birds, and I could hear my heart beating. And man, I just fell deeper into this place. And then I could feel the wind. And you know how the wind at the beach has that little bit of salt? And that little bit of salt got on my hands. Ah, man. And I could just smell that salt and smell the air. And all of a sudden, just like that, I was in the presence of this deep, deep beauty. And I would call that the Spirit of God. And in that presence, everything changed. And nothing changed. Because I changed. And I opened my eyes, and there's Cindy and Kaylee, and I was just so thankful for them. And so thankful for the moment. And so thankful that we were going to a wedding. You know what I mean? Because weddings are beautiful things. And then we got up, walked down the beach, got something to eat, and it was gone like that, right? But it wasn't. Because I carried it the rest of the day. Even when we were dancing to Twist and Shout. See, the reality, my friends, is that Christ is alive. The Spirit of Christ that Jesus carried with him is alive for you and for me. And we can encounter it whenever our eyes and ears and hearts are open enough to do just that. And I hope you'll do it today, right now, right here, in just a second. Amen.